Sixth, how do I deal with someone who raises a doubt? The answer before responding to any doubt, you must know if the one posing the doubt is a Muslim or an atheist. There is a fundamental difference in addressing the doubt. If the person posing the doubt is an atheist, you should first dismantle their atheism before answering their doubt. You must remove atheism from their heart before answering the doubt, otherwise the answer won't be complete. The atheist is a child of nature in the material world. The atoms of his brain are the same as the atoms of matter and are governed by the same laws of matter, right? Isn't this the view of the atheist towards nature and himself? Atheism implies that there is no difference between a human and matter, as the laws governing humans are the same as those governing a stone, as agnostic Carl Sagan says. The human being from an atheistic perspective is governed by strict material laws. Atheistically, they are merely a deterministic being subject to the laws of matter, and everything they do is deterministic actions. All their behaviors are simply deterministic equations without choice. In nature, there are only material laws that govern everything around us and within our brains. If atheism were true, we are no more than a trajectory for a set of equations. Therefore, the famous American atheist Sam Harris has a booklet titled Free Will, in which he says that free will is merely an illusion and asserts that, from an atheistic perspective, we live in a deterministic world with no choice or free will. This raises the question, how then, as an atheist, did you understand that there are doubts? If atheism were true, you wouldn't understand that there are doubts at all. If atheism were true, you wouldn't feel the presence of a doubt, because a doubt means something occurred that wasn't supposed to happen. That is the meaning of doubt. The meaning of the suspicion is that something occurred or was written in a sacred religious text, and it was not supposed to happen or be written, whereas in reality, there is no suspicion in a deterministic world. There is neither the existence of suspicion nor its meaning in a world governed by deterministic laws. In the deterministic material world, the location of events is the same as the one governed by physical laws, and we say the same thing about human behavior. The place of every event in human behavior will be the same place governed by the physics of atomic motion. And since no atom violates a physical law, every atom in your brain, in the brain of any criminal, and in the brain of any reformer, follows strict, fixed physical laws and deterministic laws. There is not a single atom that moves in a direction contrary to atomic physics. If you add acid to a base in any laboratory, the result will be salt and water. And if you repeat the experiment 1,000,000,000 times, you will get the same result, and your brain is governed by these same strict physical laws. Since no atom violates a physical law, and since the location of every event, whether in the natural world or in human behavior or in the brain, is the same location determined by the physics of atomic motion, there will thus be no free will. So how did you know there was suspicion? And how is there suspicion in the first place? The atheist or the person with the doubt claims that something happened or was written in a sacred legal text when it wasn't supposed to happen or be written. This means that there is choice, that there is free will, and that there are possibilities for events. This notion exists only if we are entrusted with free choices. An atheist does not claim the existence of doubt except because he innately knows that humans have freedom and choice, and that they can do something or refrain from doing it. The atheist does not claim there is a doubt except because the world is human, not deterministic, for the human is free and instinctively knows he is free. Based on this inherent sense of choice, the atheist understands that there are doubts, and understands that some things could have not happened. Thus, by raising doubts, the believer seems to affirm and acknowledge that there is a world of choice and obligation alongside the material world. And this is sufficient evidence to remove atheism from his heart, for if the world were merely deterministic equations and algebraic numbers, then all crimes committed would be the result of complex mathematics in the brain. And if that were the case, you wouldn't even know that there are crimes in the first place, nor would you know that there is right or wrong, and consequently, you wouldn't decide that there are doubts. Your understanding of the doubt confirms the error of atheism. A person only comprehends the existence of doubt because there is free will, only understands doubt because there is choice, only understands doubt because atheism is wrong, and only understands doubt because he is tasked and created by God. A person is given choice in their decisions. And this choice is not based on their atoms, but because they have a soul and a divine duty. Through the soul and divine duty, a person knows they are tasked, know they have choice, and know they have free will. When atheists denied the soul and divine duty, they were forced to adopt fatalism because they returned to the material world, falling into a terrible self-contradiction. They inherently know they have free will, but their atheism compels them to embrace fatalism, leading to contradiction. I wonder how a person can be convinced of atheism, that ideology which advocates for complete determinism. At the same time, there is what is called courts. Courts mean that determinism is wrong, because if determinism existed, a person would not be judged for their actions. Courts, laws, constitutions, punishments, and rewards are matters with a human natural consensus. These courts, laws, constitutions, punishments, rewards, and justice exist because the human being is responsible for their decisions and has free will. We all know that criminals must be held accountable. This is a matter of human natural consensus. But if atheism were true, then the judiciary and laws would hold no value, and there would be no such thing as crime in the first place, because crime is a deterministic behavior. So how can you judge a person for a crime they are compelled to commit? Why do you prosecute a criminal for murders? And his love for killing is nothing but hormones? And his pulling the trigger is just the interaction of atoms. For the judiciary, the laws, the constitutions, the courts, the penalties, the rewards, and the prizes. All these things confirm that atheism is a wrong idea. Atheism is a strange phase of human madness and pride in this madness. Atheism contradicts every innate human consensus. So the rule that summarizes what was mentioned is that not a single atom violates a physical law. So when an atheist comes out to tell us that there are doubts, this is conclusive evidence that atheism is wrong or that physics is wrong. There is another problem as well in the atheist claim that there are doubts, for the atheists claim that there are doubts. This means that the atheist already believes in absolute moral values, as there are moral values that everyone believes in. And based on these absolute moral values, the doubt entered the mind of the atheist when he perceived a text that contradicts these absolute moral values. The atheist will not recognize the suspicion, nor argue that it is a suspicion, except due to a prior belief in the existence of these absolute moral values and the validity of these absolute moral values. They will not debate to confirm their suspicion and affirm that it is a suspicion for every human, except due to their knowledge of the truth of these values and that these values are inherent in the nature of every human being. The atheist also knows by instinct that there is an ethical purpose, and this ethical purpose means there is a moral goal that humans agree upon, settle in human consciousness, and aim to achieve. This feeling of the necessity of an ethical purpose is due to instinct and divine duty, not the movement of brain atoms. And now my question is, how can an atheist believe in moral teleology in a nihilistic and absurd world from beginning to end from an atheistic perspective? Moral teleology is a product of something that does not belong to this material world at all. It is the result of divine obligation, innate nature, and spirit, not the physics of atoms in the brain without the innate nature on which we are created, the nature of absolute moral values. And without the obligatory knowledge of the necessity of moral purpose, if not for that, no doubt would have come to a person's mind, nor would they have understood it as doubt, nor known that it would be doubt for others as well. He knows that everyone shares the same innate nature in the same teleological moral perspective. Thus a doubt arose in him, and he argued about it. The only reason a person imagines there is a doubt is because they are innately free and responsible, and that there are absolute moral values and ethical purposes, or in brief, that there is no atheism. There is a normative standard within every person, and every atheist knows that this standard exists in everyone. By referring to this standard, the atheist imagines that there is an ethical problem in this action or that. The atheist knows that every person has this standard, and thus he criticizes what he imagines to be suspicions, knowing that others will understand them as suspicions and will have the same questions and ethical dilemmas. The atheist imagines this only because they completely trust this obligatory standard. The more fiercely the atheist defends their doubts, they are even entirely prepared to debate those doubts to reinforce them. The more he knows that he demonstrates the same level of fierceness without realizing that he is tasked and not a child of deterministic nature, the more he demonstrates the same level of fierceness in defending his contention that there are moral values and ethical purposes, and he demonstrates the same level of fierceness in defending his contention that all humans are tasked, responsible, and accountable. He exhibits the same intensity in defending his argument that he is a creature of God. The whole world around you is morally innocent. The wall behind you, does it know good or evil? Is there an atom, a stone, a mountain, an animal, a planet, or a galaxy that knows moral values? The entire world around you is completely innocent morally. It knows neither good nor evil, nor sanctity nor impurity. You alone are accountable. You alone, human, cannot be morally innocent. Your only choice is to be good or evil, as the only accountable beings on earth are humans and jinn. If a person came to you and said they were an animal innocent in terms of morality, you would not accept this statement. You would categorize them based on their behaviors by comparing these behaviors to the standard of good and evil in your nature. A person cannot be a morally neutral animal, even if they wished it with all their heart. Their only choice is to be virtuous or corrupt. There is a third issue in the matter of atheism and doubts, which is the issue of the mind. Every person is blessed by God with the gift of the mind, this great blessing, as the mind comprehends meanings and concepts. The mind prevents a person from making mistakes. And through the mind, a person understands that there is doubt, but the issue is that if atheism were true, and we were in a purely material world, there would be no existence of the mind. In atheism, only the brain exists. That brain with its electrical neural activity. And this activity is subject to deterministic physical laws. This is the only thing available in atheism. They are just atoms inside the skull performing deterministic biological functions according to physical laws. So the mind has no existence in atheism. Therefore, the ideas enabled by the neural activity in the physics of the brain, from an atheistic perspective, will not exceed the image of outputs from complex computers. These outputs include illusions and delusions. They are merely images and imaginations that do not produce ideas we can trust. Thus, the brain in atheism cannot reflect ideas that make us trust our decisions. And so Darwin himself doubted the ideas produced by the brain. Darwin says, "I am haunted by the following doubt. Can the human brain, which I believe evolved from lower creatures, can the human brain be trusted at all after that? Does it have any value or deserve the slightest trust? From an atheistic perspective, there is no trust in the ideas that the brain produces." Former atheist Clyde Lewis says, "If atheism is true, then I cannot trust my thoughts, and thus I cannot trust atheism, so there is no reason to be an atheist." In short, I can never use my thoughts to disbelieve in God, because without belief in God, the mind would not exist. Therefore, in the material world, there is no mechanism through which we can even trust atheism itself. The atheist would not comprehend his atheism, nor believe in it, unless he first assumes that the mind has correct judgments, and this is only achieved through belief in God. In another way, a person would only become an atheist if God existed, because the decision to believe or even to disbelieve is based on the presence of a mind that issues correct judgments. And this belief in the correctness of the mind's decisions only comes from believing that I am a servant of God, created by God. Since God created my mind, I trust the judgments it provides, and not that my mind is merely imaginary forms within a physical brain. So without the mind that God created for you, you cannot trust in your atheism. These are strange paradoxes, but they exist within the even stranger world of atheism. An atheist cannot trust in the validity of a doubt, or even that it is a doubt at all, unless he is initially confident that his mind was created by God. Glory be to God. When the atheist defends the doubt, he is actually defending his submission to divine obligation, acknowledging that he is a servant of God and a creation, not particle physics. To God prostrates whoever is in the heavens and the earth, willingly or unwillingly. We are all subject to God whether we like it or not. So, in summary, if an atheist raises a doubt, you must dismantle his atheism before answering his doubt. You must explain to him that his understanding of the doubt is built on at least three pillars. First, that humans have free will and choice. Second, that there are absolute moral values. Third, that there is a mind whose judgments are correct. A person cannot comprehend a doubt if any of these pillars are compromised, and these three pillars do not exist in atheism. Therefore, there is no room for doubt in atheism. Once you have dismantled the atheist's atheism, you can calmly begin to answer their doubt if the doubt still remains.